Good day, students. Welcome to mathgotserved.com. In this clip, we're going to be going over section 1.1a of our Virtual Algebra 2 text. Our focus will be on how to apply the order of operations. Before we get started, we're going to do a real quick review on some foundational processes carrying out operations on arithmetic that will govern our problem-solving process. Alright, so we're going to start with our rules review. These are some important rules that you need to have mastered in order to be able to accurately apply the order of operations in simplifying arithmetic expressions. So the first one has to do with the rules for adding and subtracting integers. Adding and subtracting integers. Alright, so what's the rule for adding and subtracting integers? Well, first of all, if you are adding or subtracting numbers with the same sign, what you do is you add the numbers, add and keep the sign. Okay, add and keep the sign. When you're subtracting or adding integers with different signs, in this case, what you do is you're going to subtract the numbers and keep the sign of the larger. Okay, and keep the sign of the larger of the two integers. All right, now what about multiplication? When you're multiplying or dividing numbers, these are the rules that you have to keep in mind. Multiplying and dividing signs, because you have to be able to accurately resolve the product or quotient of signs in order to be able to apply the order of operations in certain cases. Okay, so let's take a look at the following set of problems. What if you have minus times minus? Minus times minus is plus. How about plus times plus? Plus times plus is plus. All right, let's look at division. What if you have minus divided by minus? Minus divided by minus is plus. And then if you have plus divided by plus, the sign of your result will be plus. So do you see a pattern here? If you examine these pair of operations, what you notice is that when you're multiplying or dividing signs, whenever the signs you're multiplying or dividing are the same, the result is always going to be positive. Okay? So multiplying or dividing the same sign yields a positive result. Okay? Now, what if the signs are different? So, for example, what if we have minus times plus? If you have minus times plus, the result will be minus. If you have plus times minus, the result will be minus also. So this is the situation with different signs and multiplication. How about division? Minus divided by plus is minus, and plus divided by minus is minus also. So do you see the rule here? Whenever you're multiplying or dividing different signs, what's the resulting sign? It's going to always be negative. Okay? So you want to keep these rules in mind. And of course, you want to remember the order of operations. The order of operations is, please excuse my dear Aunt Sally, Pemdas. What does Pemdas mean? Well, let's write it this way. Please excuse my dear Aunt Sally. So parenthesis means that you simplify the operations inside the parentheses first. Okay, so P is for parentheses, as in simplify operations in the parentheses. And then you go ahead and simplify exponents. M and D just basically means you multiply and divide next. But you're going to be going from left to right. So just execute your multiplication and division from left to right. These two have the same hierarchy. Okay, so this is 1, 2, 3 is occupied by minus and multiply and divide, whichever comes first from left to right. And then AS represents adding and subtracting. They are of the same hierarchy, add and subtract, but you execute those from left to right. Okay, so order of operations, first is simplify the operations in the parentheses. Secondly, you carry out the evaluation of the exponential terms with exponents. Third, you multiply and divide from left to right. And then fourth, you add and subtract from left to right. Okay, so this is the order of operations right here. All right, let's go ahead and try out some examples. The task here is to evaluate the given expressions. Number 1, what if we have the expression -4 plus 6, that divided by -2 times 4 minus -6 times -1 minus 5. Okay, so let's go ahead and evaluate this arithmetic expression. All right, so we have -4 plus 6 on the top, that divided by on the bottom we have -2 times 4 minus -6 times -1 times -5. Alright, so one thing you want to keep in mind is that we have the numerator and the denominator. So think about there being an imaginary parenthesis in your numerator position. Okay? Alright, now, so basically we can simultaneously work on the numerator and the parentheses in the denominator. So we're looking at the quantity in the parentheses in the numerator. We can evaluate that. So that gives us, let's see, what does that give us? That gives us -4 plus 6. So in this case, you're combining numbers with different signs. So you subtract, you get 2, and you keep the sign of the bigger, which is positive. All right. So that's that for the numerator. There's only one operation in the parentheses, which we have just carried out. Now, when we want to go to the denominator, we notice we have a multiplication, a parenthesis, and a subtraction. So following the order of operations, we're going to deal with the simplification of the operations inside the parentheses first. Okay? So what are we going to do? In the parentheses, we have minus and times, multiplication and subtraction. Which comes first in Pemdas? You multiply and divide before you subtract. Okay, so we're going to multiply -6 times -1. So when you're multiplying minus times minus, the same sign gives you positive. 6 times 1 is 6. All right, -5. We still have a parenthesis with an operation in it, so we have to deal with that next. So what does that give us? We have to resolve 4 minus 6. So in this case, we have to combine two numbers with different signs. So we're going to subtract and keep the sign of the bigger of the two. 6 is bigger, so we'll keep the minus. 6 minus 4 is 2. So our answer will be -2 minus 5. Okay, now let's take a look at what we should do next in the denominator. In the denominator, you notice that we have multiplication and subtraction. Please excuse my dear Aunt Sally. We are going to multiply first. Minus 2 times minus 2 is positive 4. Okay, minus 5. And then in the denominator, we have to combine two numbers with different signs. So we subtract and keep the sign of the bigger, negative 1. Now, what is positive 2 divided by negative 1? Anytime you divide in negative different signs, remember the rule, you always end up with a negative. 2 divided by 1 is just 2. Negative 2 is your final answer for this problem. All right, let's go ahead and try another example. Now, what if for number 2, what if we have the expression 2 plus 12, 12 divided by the following, 12 divided by negative 3 plus 3 times negative 4 plus negative 2 square, something like that. All right, let's go ahead and evaluate that expression. Now, to evaluate this expression, we're going to apply the order of operations, okay? So we have 2 plus here, and then 12 over the denominator, which is negative 3 plus 3 times negative 4 plus negative 2 square. Okay, so imagine that there is an invisible parenthesis in the denominator. Okay, so you have an invisible parenthesis in the denominator right here. So we have to simplify all the operations in the denominator completely, and then we'll proceed to divide before we add. All right, so let's focus our attention in the denominator. So we're going to have 2 plus 12. Let's see what we can do in the denominator. We have an operation on the outside, this plus right here, we have a times, but we also have another parenthesis here. So we have to deal with the operation inside the parenthesis first. Okay, so we need to deal with that first. So we're looking at this operation right here. But wait, within that we have an exponent. So do we add first or do we exponentiate first? And please excuse my dear Aunt Sally, E comes before A and S, right? So we have to do the exponent first, and then we will deal with the addition afterwards. Okay, so let's do that. Bring down negative 3 plus 3 times negative 4, leave that alone, and then we square negative 2. Negative 2 squared is negative 2 times negative 2, okay? Negative 2 times negative 2, you're multiplying the same sign, so it's going to be positive, and then 2 times 2 is 4, like that, okay? All right, so what do we have next? We still have that imaginary parenthesis in the denominator. So we have to completely simplify the operations in the denominator before we can bother with other operations. All right. So we have 2 plus 12. Now what can we do next in the denominator? Well, we still have a parenthesis there. So we have to take care of that. So we have negative 3 plus 3 times negative 4 plus 4 is going to be 0. Like that. And then we still have the imaginary parenthesis in the denominator, so we're still working with the denominator. And then now we have 2 plus 12 divided by, now what are we going to do first? Are we adding or multiplying? And please excuse my dear Aunt Sally, you multiply and divide before you add or subtract, okay? So we're going to multiply 0 times 3. 3 times 0 is 0, so we have negative 3 plus 0. Now that gives us 2 plus 12. We still have that invisible parenthesis in the denominator, so we have to continue simplifying the denominator completely. Negative 3 plus 0, um, signs are different. You subtract and keep the sign of the bigger. So your answer is just going to be negative 3. Negative 3. Okay, so now we have addition and division. Which one are we going to do next? Please excuse my dear Aunt Sally. We are going to have to um, divide first before we add. So what is 12 divided by negative 3? First of all, remember when you're dividing different signs, you um, always end up with a negative. Okay, so it's going to be plus negative 12 divided by 3 is 4. Bam, just like that. Now, we have two adjacent signs next to each other. The operation is multiplication. So when you multiply positive and negative, what do you get? Positive times negative, different signs, you always end up with a minus. Okay? 2 minus 4. 2 minus 4, different signs, you subtract 2 and keep the sign of the bigger, negative 2. Okay? So that's basically how you apply the order of operations in simplifying arithmetic expressions. Now, have you mastered the contents of this presentation? In order to demonstrate mastery, we would like you to go ahead and try out the following problems. So try these. Alright, so you will just copy down the problems, pause the video, try them out, and then when you're done, you click on the playback button to see what the answers are. Okay, for number 1, what if you have 6 minus negative 6 divided by 3 minus negative 5 times negative 6 plus 5 squared? If you simplify, so the instructions are to simplify the given expressions, okay? Alright, and then number 2, what if you have the expression negative 4 over 1 minus 5 plus 4 plus 2, this entire thing multiplied by 6, and then minus 6. Alright, go ahead and pause the video, and we'd like you to try these two problems. When you're done, click on play to see what the answers are. Alright, hopefully you had a chance to try the problems. The answers to the problems are as follows. For number 1, the answer is negative 51. And then for number 2, the answer is 36. Thanks so much for taking the time to watch this presentation. We really appreciate it. If you found the contents of this tutorial helpful in your studies of the foundations of Algebra 2, do give us a thumbs up. Your positive feedback is very valuable to us. If you have any questions or comments, just place it in the comment section below, and we'll be more than glad to respond. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel for updates to other tutorials such as this. More clips and support resources to help you with Algebra 2 can be found on mathgotserved.com. Do check it out. Thanks again for watching and have a wonderful day. Goodbye.